As we begin this morning, I have a little funny riddle. What kind of car did the disciples drive? It's a Honda, because it says in the book of Acts they were all in one accord. They were all in one accord. Oop. Well, I've entitled our lesson today, A Formula Guaranteed to Bring Increase. And it's a dynamic lesson that demonstrates the spiritual law of multiplication. Multiplication. Some people call it the spiritual law of continuation, because when Jesus started to break the loaves and fish, it just continually was supplied until everyone was fed. I want to ask you as we begin, is there something in your life you'd like to see more of? More health, more, maybe you're a business owner and you want to see more customers and more revenue, more profits for your business. We've had a prayer this morning to see more attendance for our ministry, to be able to serve and bless more people. Maybe you offer personal services like massage or counseling or music lessons, and you want to help more people advance their talent and their skills. Maybe you're in sales, insurance, real estate, medical supplies, whatever it is, and you want to expand your territory or increase or exceed your quota. Whatever it is, would it be helpful to learn the spiritual principle of multiplication to 10x whatever it is you want to see more of? Who is on for that today? Okay. In the book of Mark, beginning in the 34th verse, and actually this miracle is one of the few that shows up in all four Gospels. It was important enough and impactful enough that it was recorded in every Gospel. And it's the story of the multiplication of the loaves and the fish, and it does offer that clear formula that we can follow. We can look at the steps and examine what happens so that we can follow that formula that will bring increase. Now, to recall the story, it begins interestingly by saying Jesus withdrew to a desert place. After he'd spent all day healing and preaching, God bless the disciples, they came to him and talked lack. They said, it's late, send the people away, we don't have anything to eat, send them away to get something to eat. And astonishingly, Jesus said to them, you give them something to eat. I've been showing you what to do and how to do. I've been preaching all day. You give them something to eat. And they're like, well, we only have, so they looked around and there was a little boy that had a basket of food. And they said, well, we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And so Jesus said, he asked the people to sit down in groups. And then he took the food, the loaves and the fish into his hands, and it says he looked up and he blessed it and he gave thanks, and then he broke it and passed it out, and he fed the 5,000 with 12 baskets of food left over at the end of the demonstration. He demonstrated this formula of multiplication in ways that had never before been seen or practiced. I love it that he also demonstrated that Jesus cares not only for our spiritual needs, but our physical needs. He's demonstrating that the universal Christ consciousness is all providing. It doesn't matter if it's not about your spiritual growth solely, it's about living a life in physical comfort, in prosperity, and in well-being. So let's take a closer look. I have 6 steps this morning for us to take a look at in this process of multiplication. And we say, first of all, Jesus asked where am I here? Wait a minute. He asked the people to sit down to prepare to eat. And when the disciples suggested that the crowd be sent away to a place where food was seen as already available, had Jesus believed, like the disciples believed, that food was in some place but not in others, he would have dismissed the crowd to go and find their own food, wouldn't he? And when the disciples said, we only have 5 loaves and 2 fish, and they were in a consciousness of we only have this much. They were in a consciousness of there's not enough. But Jesus was not. He believed in an everywhere present availability of divine substance. I have a friend up here this morning.
It was my friend for a while.
We're manifesting that he finds his right and perfect place. Run along now. Jesus believed in an everywhere present availability of divine substance, that it was unlimited and inexhaustible, and he began turning the idea of lack into abundance by immediately using the no power, N-O, no power of his mind, as he refused to believe in the lack that the disciples were talking about, and he refused to be hypnotized by the appearance of lack. So in step one, we want to anchor ourselves in a consciousness that divine substance from which all things come, the energetic vibration in which all things are made, is available at all times and in all places. There is no desert place in your life that is barren of substance. It is never depleted. It does not fluctuate with the stock market. It doesn't fluctuate with the economy. It does not decrease in hard times, and it doesn't increase in good times. It is constant, ever-present, available, and unlimited, and accessible to all, and we don't need to go anywhere to get it. We're swimming in it. We're swimming in a sea of abundance. Second step, when we anchor ourselves then in this idea of universal divine substance everywhere present, the second thing we want to do then is establish order so that we can cooperate with spiritual law effectively and efficiently. So Jesus asked the people to sit down right in the midst of this desert place where there appeared to be no food. Controlling the crowd is important. The crowd of people represent, the multitude of people represent the multitude of thoughts. My licensed teacher in Nashville, Wanda, called them our thought people. That represents our thought, the multitude of thoughts that we have in the midst of the experience. And it's imperative that we learn to control those thoughts because we relate to divine mind through our thinking. Thoughts like, I'm broke, sales are down, there's not enough, I just don't have the energy and the flexibility that I used to, the thrill is gone out of the marriage. Those thoughts can play over and over in our mind and create havoc. But when we gain control within, establishing order, when an external need comes up, then we have the discipline and the construct in our thinking to be able to say to that unruly crowd, sit down and get ready to receive. Sit down, be still, get ready to receive. Then we can do whatever we need to do in an inner way and an outer way to take control and bring order. So step one, consciousness of divine substance everywhere present. Step two, establish order. Order in your thinking, order in preparation for a process. The third step, Jesus took the loaves and fishes into his hands, and the bread represents not merely food, but bread is universal life, the substance of life. And it represents our ability to live in harmony and health and wholeness and joy. And fish were an ancient symbol, believe it or not, for fertility. They symbolize power, the power of increase, the power of increase. So Jesus takes the bread and the fish in his hands. He takes hold of life, the energy of life, and the power of increase. And over, we said this in our lesson a few weeks ago, he used what he had at hand. He used what was available to him in order to create or activate the mind substance, the divine substance to create. We said a couple weeks ago, he picked up dirt and spit in it and made a clay as a paste to put on the blind man's eyes to restore sight. He instructed the disciples to go get a fish out of the sea and take the coin out of its mouth to pay the taxes. He recognized the instant, constant, abundant supply of spirit is everywhere, but he also knew that it remains static and immovable until it is moved upon by us. And we move upon it with our thinking. We have to activate divine substance by giving something, by doing something, by thinking something, to prime the pump for increase. Now, I have this book, The New Master Key System. It was originally the Master Key System by Charles Hannell, and it was redone by Ruth Miller. And she gives a pretty good explanation here. Let me find the page. Excuse me. She says, the one creative principle in the physical, mental, and spiritual world is the universal mind. Now, we know that. We've been in unity for a long time. The one creative principle in the physical, mental, and spiritual world is the universal mind, or external energy from which all things proceed. We are related to this creative principle by our ability to think thoughts. That results in an action, and action results in form. Now stay with me on this. Form depends on the rate of vibration in substance, and the rate of vibration may be changed by mental action. So, you're getting with it. You're getting with the program. You're thinking your thoughts, and you're expanding on them, and you're holding your mind in your mind's eye, this visualization of what you want to see in your life, and you're thinking about it. You're letting your attention go to it. So vibration may be changed by mental action, which in turn depends on the action and reaction, or polarity, between the individual and the universal. So you're trying to raise your vibration up to the universal Christ consciousness. Creative energy originates in the universal, but the universal can manifest only through the individual, because the universal is static and requires energy to start it into motion. So, that's a surprising thought. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know it, that universal energy is static, and it requires us as individuals to move upon it to set it into motion. So Jesus takes the fish and the 5 loaves of bread into his hands and begins to move upon universal substance. Now, as you think about expanding something in your life, your health, the harmony in your relationship, more time in your already too busy schedule, whatever it is, what do you have at hand that you can put into circulation to move upon divine substance? What thoughts can you think? What activities can you do? What can you do even symbolically to begin to raise your vibration to move upon divine substance? Is there some skill that you have? Is there some money you can put into circulation? Is there some education you can get? Is there some way you can share more of yourself with someone in their life that may need you? What do you have at hand that you can give to activate and move upon divine substance, to do your part, to be the individual relating to the universal? You see, it may seem small. Whatever you have to give may seem insignificant at the beginning. It may even seem pointless. You go, I don't know why I'm going to do this, but it's like step 3 in the process, and so I'll do it, but it doesn't really make sense. But you have to do something to move upon universal energy so that it begins to draw increase towards you. My friend Rami is here from Iraq. He's a pharmacist, and he's been a pharmacist for 7 or 8 years in Iraq, and he's going through all that process of becoming a pharmacist in the United States. And if any of you know that process, if a doctor comes here, or a pharmacist, or someone in the medical profession, there's an enormous amount of stuff you have to do to be licensed to practice in the United States. There's English proficiency tests, and then the Board of Pharmacy has a list this long of things you have to do. He's been working on that for the last year, and he's down to the final step where he has to work 1,500 hours as a pharmacy intern or tech to be certified that he knows about pharmacy in America, pharmacy in the United States. So he's been looking for a job to be hired as a pharmacy intern or pharmacy tech now for several months, and it's not it doth not yet appear. His job does not yet appear. So what is he going to do? What can he do? And what does he have at hand that he can use to activate divine substance to draw an increase of job to him? And he has a couple of things that he's been using really subconsciously or unconsciously. He says right out an I am affirmation, I'm a pharmacist. I'm a pharmacist. I've been one for 7 or 8 years. He has an I am consciousness of himself as a pharmacist. And then he put things in order. His resume is polished, his shoes are polished, his clothes are pressed, his hair is cut, he's ready for his interview, his attitude is good, he's hopeful. But still nothing. He's done steps 1 and step 2. He's in a consciousness of who he is. He's put things in order. And goose egg. And now the crowd of thought people are beginning to speak discouragement quite loudly in his heart and in his mind. So what did he have at hand that he could use? Well, it turns out he is good at research. That's what he does. He's not one of the dispensing pharmacists. He researches new drug approval. You know, when a drug has to go through all that process and get approved. He does all that research. Bless you. He does all that research. So he figured out he's good at research. So he got online and he researched all of the privately owned pharmacies in the Sacramento area. And then he researched all of the owners of those pharmacies. And then he researched all the managers of those pharmacies. Then he researched the location of those pharmacies. And then he made a list of those pharmacies and he Googled the location and he made a little map and he set a goal to go to 6 pharmacies a day and try to meet the manager or the owner and leave his resume. Personally make contact with the owner. And so he set out on day 1 and he got to 3 instead of 6. He had a commitment to get to 6. But the first 2 were so discouraging, his crowd of thought people. I mean, the conditions that he saw in these particular pharmacies were not particularly attractive, and the reception that he received was not very good. So when he got to the 3rd one, while the pharmacy was lovely, and the manager was there, the owner was there, his crowd of thought people were just having him in a sense of discouragement and defeat. But he was able to talk to the owner, and he left his resume, and then he went home mentally and emotionally exhausted and said, I'll do 6 tomorrow. You've all done that, right? We've all done that in looking for a job. But lo and behold, the next morning the phone rang, and the owner of the 3rd pharmacy hired him and said, can you start tomorrow? And so he's in process now. He's worked 2 days this week, came home exhausted at the end of his days. But he got his job. So what did he have in hand that he could use? His ability to research. That's why you think it's something small, you think it's something simple, you think it might be pointless. But you do your part, and you activate universal mind to respond to you, to respond to you. Step 4, Jesus looked up. In unity, we do not believe that he was looking up to God somewhere out there in the sky. We do believe that the faith center is at the crown chakra of your head, and when you lift up, you are raising your vibration into the crown center. We also believe you're looking toward God as source, but more importantly, in this miracle, I believe Jesus is looking up to take his eyes off of the appearances. He's not thinking, oh my gosh, there's 5,000 people out here that we have to find some food for. So he's taking his eyes off of the appearances. I think that's why we close our eyes when we pray. As Claudia said in her meditation, to shut out any outer distractions. He looked up to take his eyes off of appearances of not enough. He looked up in mind to God as source. And that's what my friend, the pharmacist, had to do. He had to take his eyes off of the appearance of no job and no response to all the resumes he was sending online. You know, it's like putting paperwork down a black hole. You've done that, right? It's easy to judge by appearances. It's easy to let yourself be influenced by conditions and circumstances. It's easy to look at how little you appear to have, what's missing, what's needed, and it can feel overwhelming. You can feel a sense of emptiness, a sense of lack, and it can feel overwhelming. But to feed the 5,000, Jesus couldn't have a consciousness of lack. He could not have had a mental image of lack. His focus had to be, as he had trained his mind to be, on the everywhere present, unlimited, inexhaustible supply of substance, and his ability to cooperate with it and know that he could be in relationship to it and that it would respond for him. You can be faced with overwhelming negative appearances, no sales, no job, no customers, an empty bank account, high white blood count, divorce papers, complex legal matter, and the physical evidence of the senses, of what your eyes see, the facts, the figures, the diagnosis, the paperwork. It can seem really real, can't it? Really real. But you cannot let yourself be influenced by what you see. Because as we learn in the beginning of this miracle, even in the desert places of your life, abundance is available to you right now, right there, right then. And so we see Jesus take a fifth step where he blessed the food and gave thanks. And the power of increase is activated and accelerated by praise and thanksgiving and blessing. The word praise has the word raise in it, and what you praise, you raise up and you increase. Have you had that experience of you love something, like your favorite is lemon pie or something, and you say that, and then every time there's an occasion, people bring you lemon pie? You're magnetized to what you love. You say you like chocolate, and people bring you everything chocolate. You say you like candles, and all of a sudden, every time somebody walks past you, practically, you're magnetized to candles in your life, or sushi. You get a gift card for sushi somewhere. What you love, you're magnetized to. What you praise, what you appreciate is accelerated. That vibration of love just accelerates and lifts you into that vibration at an accelerated pace. So he blessed the food, gave thanks, and those are all multipliers of good. Step 6 is he took action. He broke the bread and passed it. And for me, this is probably the most significant part of the miracle, the most significant activity in the miracle. Can you see that every time he broke the bread or a piece of fish, he broke with the belief in lack and limitation? He broke through a belief that supply is limited. He broke with doubt. He broke with worry. He broke with fear. He broke with uncertainty. He broke from the hypnotism of the human conditioning that believes that there's not enough. He broke with the idea that supply can be deleted. He broke with the idea that supply is found in some places and not others, because here he was, just making fish and bread, right where he was, demonstrating fish and bread. He also broke into the realm of divine substance. He broke into, with every break, he broke into the realm of all possibility. With every break, he broke open a channel for the unlimited flow of divine substance, so that he became a conduit. He gained that interconnection of divine substance, and then he never took his hands off the visible supply, and he never took his consciousness off the belief in divine substance. And those two polarity powers, in the visible and the invisible, caused him to become a conduit of divine substance to flow in unlimited measure. And he fed all 5,000 with 12 baskets left over. He just drew more and more from the invisible realm into the physical realm. It passed through his hands in a steady flow, and in that deserted place where only he could discern supply, he fed thousands. And he's always teaching, always demonstrating for us. Isn't it exciting to think that you can break with lack and limitation and break into the realm of divine substance and divine supply? That the spiritual principle of multiplication is one of the most effective strategies you can use to build increase in your life. Again, in this work, the Master Key System, I have it here somewhere, kind of gives a summary. This is a chapter on radiating attraction. It says, eliminate any possible tendency to complain of conditions as they have been or as they are, because it rests with you to change them and to make them what you would like them to be. Check. Got that part. Direct your effort to a realization of the mental resources always at your command, from which all real and lasting power comes. Eliminate the negativity, direct your thoughts. Persist. Persist in this practice until you come to a realization of the fact that there can be no failure in the accomplishment of any proper object in life if you but understand your power and persist in your object. The mind forces are ever ready to lend themselves to a purposeful will in the effort to crystallize thought and desire into actions, events, and conditions. So you're training and disciplining your mind to cooperate with the universal mind. And those mind forces are ever ready to lend themselves to bring actions, events, and conditions into your life. You see the cooperation? Whereas in the beginning, each function of life and each action is the result of conscious thought. You're efforting, you're training, you're like an athlete in training. It's an effort of conscious thought. The habitual actions become automatic, and the thought that controls them passes from the realm of conscious into your subconscious. And the thought that controls them passes into the realm of the subconscious, yet it is just as intelligent as before. It's necessary that this process, that your thought become automatic or subconscious, in order that the self-conscious mind can attend to other things. The new actions will, however, in their turn become habitual, and then automatic, and then subconscious, in order that the mind may again be freed from this detail and advance on to still other activities. Powerful. You're training your mind, and you're working with it in consciousness until it becomes habitual, and then it becomes anchored in your subconscious, and you don't even have to think about it anymore. You have the power of increase anchored in your consciousness. So whenever you need to increase something, you're simpatico with it. You're just in tune with it. 6 aspects in consciousness you want to strengthen. Gain the idea that divine substance from which all things are made is available at all times, in all places, is never depleted, and you don't need to go anywhere to get it. And after a while, you'll be carrying it with you in the subconscious, so that your consciousness is free to work on other things. Control the crowd of your thought people. Use what you have at hand to jumpstart the activity of divine mind. Take your eyes off of the appearances to keep your spiritual vision steadfast on the truth. Bless and give thanks to accelerate and 10x your results. Break with negative thought patterns so you can break open to divine substance and let yourself be a conduit of its flow. And that's it. You're a child of the Most High. You already have been given within the potentiality of your own soul everything that you need for your eternal ongoing and the ability to create it. Catherine Ponder says it pretty simply. I think in summary we'll close with this. Lots of powerful, I was going to make this a 2-part series, and then a wedding feast took longer than I thought, so I tried to put this all in one Sunday. I hope you're still with me. Catherine Ponder says from The Millionaire from Nazareth, His Prosperity Secrets for You. She said, the last step to abundance is when you break according to need, you prosper. The rich substance of the universe flows under your hand in an unending stream of plenty. If you keep your hand on that stream of plenty, By blessing it and affirming that it is enough, you can receive substance in any form and in any amount as the need arises. You see, you're in that flow. When the mind centers its attention upon divine substance long enough and strong enough, this mental action causes invisible substance to appear as visible results. Thousands or few, the rich substance of the universe is sufficient to provide abundantly. Desert or garden, substance abounds. Neither circumstances nor numbers need dismay you. You can cause your good to multiply as needed. So there you go, the spiritual formula to guarantee that guarantees increase. So let's seal this for a moment in prayer. Give thanks that we are one with the One. In loving presence, we give thanks that we've been given spiritual laws that enable us to live rich and full and abundant, healthy, joy-filled lives. That we let ourselves become one with divine mind, one with divine substance. And in that connection of the individual and the universal, the flow is one of goodness. We give thanks this day for health, for wealth, for happiness, and all good things. And may each one here be blessed. And so it is. Amen.